Om Sadashivasamadhyamam Shankaracharyamध्यamam
Acharya
Asmadacharyaparryantam
Madhyamam
Vande Guru
Paramparam
Om
Om
Sahana Bhavatu
Sahana Bhavatu
Sahana
Sahana
Bhunaktu
Bhunaktu
Sahaviryam Karavavakai
Karavayam Karavavahe
Tejasvinavadhitamastu
Tejasvinavadhitamastu
Mavidvishavahai
Mavidvishavahai
Om
Om
Shanti
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 Shanti Shanti.
Shanti. So in the last class, we had finished the fifth Adhyaya of the Gita. And now we have to move on to the sixth chapter. The sixth chapter is basically on meditation. And we have to understand what is meant by that. So the chapter is, in some books, you will find the chapter is titled Dhyana Yoga, which is in my book, which is basically Giri Agency. And some books you will find that it's titled Atma Sanyama Yoga or Atma Samyama Yoga. So one shouldn't get confused. Atma Sanyam means the union with the Atma, basically meditation only. And Dhyanam also means meditation. So Krishna is showing here that this Dhyanam is a very important sadhana for all of us. Now, what does Dhyanam actually mean? You know, if you look at the word Dhyanam, appearing in the Upanishads, and why we say Upanishads is because ultimately Bhagavad Gita is not an independent teaching of Krishna's. He himself has said that I have taught this to Surya Bhagavan before. So essentially it is, Gita is also is an extract of the teachings only, Upanishadic teachings only, of the Shruti only. So we look at the Upanishads to understand what is meant by Dhyanam. And there are certain important ideas. Let us try to see what they are, which is being conveyed by the Shruti, by Upanishads. So one is that Dhyanam is not a sadhana for moksha. Dhyanam is not a means for getting moksha. And this is very important to know because a lot of people interpret meditation as a means of moksha. A lot of other darshanas, other teachers also present meditation as means of moksha. And that is not possible. Why? Because a sadhana, a means, is necessary for what? For a sadhyam, something to be achieved. So you utilize a means, a sadhana, to achieve something which is to be achieved, which is called the sadhyam. And dhyanam can be the means only if moksha is something to be achieved. And what is moksha? Is it something to be achieved?
No,
Very important
it is
question.
to be aware of.
No,
It's to
we
be
are already
aware.
moksha.
Right. So in Sanskrit, it is called siddha vastu. It is not sadhyam. Sadhyam is the result of sadhana. Moksha is siddha vastu, an already accomplished reality, an already existing fact. So the basic teaching of the Upanishad is that you are already Brahman, which means you are already a moksha purushaha. Moksha is an accomplished fact. It is an existing fact. It was there, it is there, it will continue to be there. You don't need any sadhana to achieve moksha. And therefore, all sadhanas are meant only for owning up the fact that I am moksha purushaha. And that knowledge alone is the means of liberation. Jnanat evatu kaivalyam. By understanding that I am moksha purushaha, that understanding alone is liberation. And therefore, the first and most important understanding which we should have, meditation cannot give moksha. Meditation is not necessary to give moksha because moksha is an already achieved fact. It's an accomplished fact. Jnanat evatu kaivalyam. So whenever somebody presents meditation for moksha, you should remember this and remember that that particular viewpoint is wrong. Jnanam alone can show you that you are a moksha purusha. Remember that even jnanam cannot be said to attain moksha. Moksha is not something to be attained. Moksha is something to be understood, to be owned up. And therefore, the first understanding, the first conclusion is that meditation or dhyanam is not a means of moksha. Now, meditation is also, dhyanam is also not a sadhana for jnanam. Okay? Many teachers talk about the fact that in meditation, jnanam will be attained. So that is also wrong. Why is it wrong? Because what is the means for acquiring knowledge as prescribed in Shastram? A means for acquiring knowledge is called pramanam. Pramanam is that which gives prameyam, the knowledge which you need. That pramanam can be about anything. So there can be astrology pramanam to give you knowledge about astrological events. There can be astronomy pramanam to give you knowledge about the other planets. There can be physics pramanam to give you knowledge about some physics and so on. So any means of knowledge is a pramanam. And they are discussed in the Shastram as what? As Shat Pramanani, 6 pramanams. We have done this any amount of times before, but I am just briefly doing it so that you remember. The first pramanam is Pratyaksha Pramanam, perception. And in this, there are 2 kinds of perception. External perception, which means the recognition or cognition of external objects, like sense objects, other people, whatever. And there is internal perception, which does not require your sense organs, but requires the mind. That is the perception of pain, pleasure, etc. So pratyaksham is bahya pratyaksham and antara pratyaksham. External perception and internal perception is there. One requires sense organs, one requires the mind. That's pratyaksham. The second pramanam is anumanam. Anumanam literally means knowing after. So inference, logical deduction. So when you see a smoke coming from the mountain, you cannot see the fire, but you deduce, you infer that since smoke is there, there is a fire. And why do you deduce? Because you base it on earlier pratyaksham. Somewhere you have seen that wherever there is smoke, there is fire. So that knowledge you apply here, and then you put it together and say, yes, earlier I saw fire, there was smoke. Now I am seeing only the smoke, but because of that earlier perception, that my conclusion is that there must be now fire. That is anumanam. Then there is third pramanam, which is called upamanam in the scriptures. It is comparison. So knowledge of similarity of A to B is gained from the perception of B's similarity to A, which I must have seen somewhere else. So upamanam. I'm not going in detail because this Shat Pramanani we have done in great detail earlier. Then the fourth one is Arthapatti, supposition, presumption of a fact. It's a pramanam which Veda presents, Shastram presents as a valid method of knowledge. For example, you see a fat person, you see him daily, but you also see that he never eats in the daytime. Right? Now there is no previous known fact, but you know that unless somebody eats, he cannot put on weight. And since A is fat, but I never see him eating during the day, what is the postulate? That he eats during the night. The assumption is very simple. The fatness and getting fatter cannot be explained without the fact of his eating. Why is it important? Because look at the sentence, Panditaha na anusochanti, chapter 2, verse number 11. So mere knowledge destroys grief, and therefore it can be assumed without any doubt that all grief has to be mithya alone, because what can be destroyed by knowledge is only something which is false. So that is why Panditaha anusochanti. This again is arthapatti. There is an assumption that since I know that knowledge destroys grief, the assumption is that whatever destroys, and I know that whatever is destroyed by knowledge is mithya, therefore I know that all grief is mithya. So that is why Krishna says, Panditaha na anusochanti. The wise person who has knowledge will not have grief. So there is 4: Pratyaksha, Anumanam, Upamanam, Arthapatti, and then Anupalabdhihi. Upalabdhi means presence, Anupalabdhi means non-presence or non-apprehension. The non-existence of a thing is also a valid, the perception of the non-existence of something is also a valid means of knowledge, is also pramanam according to Shastram. For example, when I say that there is no car in the garage, I am not seeing anything positive. I am seeing the absence of a car. The absence of the car is being perceived by me, and therefore I get the knowledge that car is not there in the garage, and therefore this is also a valid means of knowledge, pramana. And the 6th one is shabdam. Shabda means sound, which is basically shastram. Shastram is also a valid and independent means of knowledge. It cannot be contradicted by another knowledge, by another pramanam, nor can it be validated by another praman. So this is, therefore, in these 6, do you see dhyanam? You don't see dhyanam. What are the 6? Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana, Arthapatti, Anupalabdhi, Shastram. These are the 6 pramanam enumerated in the scriptures where dhyanam is not mentioned at all. So dhyanam is not a pramanam for jnanam. Meditation is not a pramanam for knowledge as prescribed in the scriptures. That is number 2. What are 2 things? Meditation, dhyanam, is not a sadhana for moksha. Dhyanam is not for jnanam also. Dhyanam is not a pramanam for jnanam. That's number 2. Number 3, that dhyanam, shastram does not prescribe for any mystic experience, any extraordinary experience. Why? Because any experience which you have, whether it is an ordinary experience, whether it is an extraordinary experience, a mystical experience which you cannot explain, all these, they come and go, and therefore all these have a boundary of time, and therefore all time-bound experiences are what? Part of the time-bound universe. So any experience, whether it be mystic or not non-mystic, can be only part of the objective universe, is only an object of your experience. And since the experiencer is the subject, you, the experiencer, can never become the object of your experience. Therefore, dhyanam gives you no practical value by way of providing any experiences. So when we say this, remember that we are talking about lots of books which you will hear. I saw this, I floated in the air, my body was different, I saw my guru before me with a blinding flash of white light. We are not questioning the possibility of experiences, okay? Mystic experiences, we are not dismissing them, we are not questioning the possibility, We are simply saying that every experience, whether it be ordinary experience or mystic experience, they belong to the field of objects. They do not deal with the subject, you. And anything which deals with objects cannot come under subject self-knowledge. And since they do not deal with the subject, they cannot give you moksha. Because only something which deals with the subject can give you moksha. No objective knowledge can give you moksha. So whether you see your wife in your dreams or you see Ishvara in your dreams, both are objects of your experience. Neither of them can give you liberation. I mean, therefore, the teaching is that as a Vedantic student, as a Vaidika student, you should accept that it is possible for mysterious and mystic experiences to be there. But all these experiences are within Anatma only. And if I spend my time chasing mystic experiences, I will find that I continue to remain within the world of Anatma. Within the world of Anatma, I am always a samsari. In fact, Gaudapadacharya has written a commentary on an Upanishad called the Mandukya Upanishad. Who is Gaudapadacharya? Gaudapadacharya is the Acharya, is the Guru of Guru Govinda Bhagavad Pada. Guru Govinda Bhagavad Pada is the Guru of whom? Shankaracharya. So Gaudapadacharya is Shankaracharya's Guru's Guru. And he has written a commentary. It's called a Karika, Mandukya Karika. So it's in verse form, so it's called a Karika. And he says there that even if you get any extraordinary mystic experiences, don't be overjoyed. Why? Because ultimately they are only Anatma. What you should do is, yes, you have an experience, great, reject them. Reject them as Anatma. And therefore, the teaching here is that meditation or dhyanam or nididhyasanam is not meant for moksha, is not meant for jnanam, and is not meant for mystic experiences also. And you will find that most of the dualistic schools followers, Dvaita followers, they will focus their attention on one of these as the objective of meditation. We should understand that that is not really so and reject that as a reason for meditation. So we are not saying meditation is useless. Meditation has a very, very important role. Dhyana has a very, very important role. In fact, it has two objectives. One is what we call jnana yogyata praptihi, preparation of the mind for spiritual knowledge, refinement of the mind, which we have referred to before as chitta shuddhi. It is like before sowing the field, before putting the seeds, you have to prepare the land. You have to till the land, you have to use fertilizer, you have to water it, and then you have to make it ready for sowing. Only then the harvest will come. And similarly, before the mind is ready to absorb Atma Jnanam, you have to use some methodology to prepare the mind. So meditation is one of the important methods, and it is called upasana. So this meditation before knowledge, before you come to jnanam, meditation is called upasana, right? What is the sequence? Karma yoga and then upasana yoga. Karma yoga is to get rid of all negative tendencies of the mind, negative emotions. Upasana is to get chitta ekagratha. I'm not explaining all this, all part of Tattva Bodha. So Karma yoga is for negation of negative thoughts, negative emotions. Upasana yoga, meditation, is for getting chitta ekagrata, being able to focus your mind when you want to on what you wanted to. Right? So Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga, then what? Then you come to Jnana. Right? Now Shastra Pramanam is called Shabda Pramanam also. What is the role of Shastram? Shastram is not to give you any new knowledge. Shastram is like a mirror. And when you want to use a mirror, you should know how to use it. You should not only have the mirror, you should know how to use the mirror. Then only the mirror will reflect your face correctly. So the Shastra Pramanam, which is like a mirror, I should know how to use. And how should I use it? Krishna said in the 4th chapter, Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshinaha. I hope you remember. Go to a teacher, prostrate before him, pay him respect, ask questions, and then he will teach you. What is that process of teaching? Shravanam and Mananam. So Shastra, Shravanam and Mananam is called Jnana Yoga, also called Vedanta Vichara, also called Adhyatma Yoga. You will hear all these names. Whenever you hear this, you must be very clear. It's not a new form of yogic posture. It is simply referring to Shravanam, Mananam of Shastram. What is Shravanam? We have seen this before. I will just recall again. Shravanam is a systematic and consistent study of Vedantic Shastram for a sufficient length of time under the guidance of a competent Acharya. Every word has to be very clearly understood. Systematic. Systematic means unfolding in a particular manner. First Tattva Bodha, then Bhagavad Geeta, chapter 1 onwards, then 2, then 3, systematically, then Upanishads, then Brahma Sutra, a lot of Prakarana Granthas in the middle. That is the systematic study. Second is consistent study. You can't be studying one Sunday and be absent for 4 Sundays and then come back and say, okay, I'll see the recordings now. You have to consistently study. Systematic, consistent study of Vedantic scriptures, of all the Vedantic texts, which is again Tattva Bodha, Prakarana Grantha, Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, Brahma Sutras. And for a sufficient length of time so that I can soak in the knowledge, that regularly that knowledge is driven into my head and under the guidance of a competent Acharya who knows how to unfold the knowledge. If any of these steps is absent, there will be no result. And when this is done correctly, fulfilling each of these conditions, systematic, consistent, scriptures, sufficient length of time, guidance of an Acharya, then the Shastram will produce the appropriate knowledge. How will you know? If I ask you, how will you know that your face can be seen in the mirror? What is the answer? Open your eyes, look into the mirror, and you will see the face. What is the answer to the question, how will I know if I do all these things, knowledge will produce? You have to operate this Shastra Pramanam mirror yourself and see for yourself. Use Vedanta Shravanam in the prescribed manner, use it for a sufficient length of time, and you see for yourself whether Atma Jnanam will arise or not. Then, Shravanam, what does it do? It gives you Jnanam. What Jnanam does it give you? Basically, Tattvamasi, you are Brahman. But during Shravanam, I may have a lot of doubts. Why I have doubts? Because Vedantic teaching is telling me so many things. But my anubhava, my personal experience is completely different. And for example, I know from my experience that I am seeking peace, permanent peace. Vedanta says you are Ananda yourself. I am seeking security. Vedanta says you are secure yourself. Where is the question of seeking security? And therefore, questions after questions will come as you go through Shravanam. Traditionally, the student does not ask a question as soon as the question arrives, but he comprehensively listens to the teaching, receives all the important features of the teaching. Most of the doubts will disappear during the subsequent teaching itself. And if it doesn't, then you can disagree with your teacher. And the teacher will always be happy when you disagree. Why? Because he knows that you have been listening. You have not slept off. So disagreeing is fine because you assimilated something and you're trying to argue. Once all this has been done, once your doubts are completely removed, then the knowledge is called samshaya rahita jnana. Right? Before that, it is samshaya sahita jnanam. Knowledge with doubts is the result of shravanam. Post maranam, when all the doubts are removed, the knowledge is called samshaya rahita jnanam. Sahita means with, rahitam means without. What is that jnanam? You will see when we come to Kaivalya Upanishad, Mayeva sakalam jatam, Mayi sarvam pratishthitam, Mayi sarvam layam yati, Tad brahma advayam ahamasmi. Mayeva sakalam jatam, from me alone this entire universe is born. Mayi sarvam pratishtham, in me alone this entire universe is sustained. Mayi sarvam layam yati, into me alone this whole universe disappears in pralayam. Tad brahma advayam ahamasmi. That Brahman, that non-dual Brahman, I am. That is the beautiful verse in Kaivalya Upanishad expressing the knowledge in totality. So Mananam is the second stage of the sadhana, exclusively meant to remove all possible doubts. So we call, in Sanskrit we call it samshaya nivrittihi. And how is this possible? So there are small verses called Shubhashitams in Sanskrit, So they express certain ideas. So here it says, Acharya padam addate, padam shishya swamedhaya, sa brahmacharibhya padam kala kramena cha. Acharya padam addate. So padam is different from padam. Okay, padam is your foot. Padam is 1/4. So padam acharyat adate, you get 1/4 of your knowledge from your acharya. Padam shishya swamedhaya, the other quarter, one more quarter we get from yourself, shishya, you are the student. Swamedhaya, using your own intelligence. That is the thinking about what the acharya has said. Then padam sa brahmacharibhya, discussions with the other brahmacharis, the other students, one more quarter is attained. So you have 1/4 from acharya, 1/4 from yourself, 1/4 from your other students, 3/4. Padam kala kramena cha. The last quarter comes only through efflux of time. Kala kramena comes in time only. Okay, so Mananam contains or converts your knowledge into conviction. Samshaya sahita jnanam, which is knowledge, is converted into samshaya rahita jnanam, which is conviction. Is called dhrida jnanam also. Is called nissamshaya jnanam also. And how do you do this? Many Upanishads tell you. Kathopanishad says, Manasi Veda Aptavyam. Use your intellect alone to assimilate this knowledge. Mundaka says in a later verse, Yes, Yeshonuratma Chetasa Veditavyaha. This Atma has to be known to the Chetas, the intellect only. So when you say intellect, you will find that many of your yogi friends will ask you, isn't all this knowledge only intellectual? How can intellectual knowledge give you, moksha? What is the answer? Knowledge is always in the intellect. Any knowledge has to be in the intellect alone. Swami Dhyana says, that there is no such thing as nasal knowledge. All knowledge is in the intellect alone. So where is the question of any knowledge occurring without the intellect? So through Shravanam and Mananam, we get clear knowledge, clear doubt-proof knowledge you get. And this clear samshaya rahita jnanam is capable of a total transformation of our lives. And this is called Jivan Mukti. So what is moksha? It was explained in the second chapter, in the third chapter, in the fourth chapter. Freedom from raga dvesha, freedom from kama krodha, freedom from lobha moha mada matsaryam, freedom from all your internal problems is moksha, which means irrespective of whatever external situation is there in your life, your mind is free from problems. This transformation, where your FIR is very low, in spite of any problems that you are facing in your life, in spite of all the problems that you are facing in your life, that transformation is the transformation from a samsari to Jivan Muktaha. So Muktaha is one who is incapable of getting hurt by external situations. Also, he is incapable of hurting other people. And Krishna says in the 12th chapter, Yasmad no dvijate lokaha, loka no dvijate chayaha. He does not get hurt by the world, and he does not hurt the world. That is a beautiful definition of a Jivan Muktaha. So what kind of mind do you have? You have a mind which is like a flower. When it comes to your interactions with others, when you are talking to others, when you are helping others, you are compassionate. Your mind is as soft as a flower. But when you are on the receiving end of comments from the others, you have a mind like a rock. The comments just bounce off. The yogi's mind is twofold. Soft when he deals with others, hard when others deal with him. Okay. Having known all this, actually by now, the knowledge is complete. In these 5 chapters, Jnanam is there. Aham Brahma Asmi. But most of us will find, in spite of this knowledge, there is a problem. This knowledge is present, but I am not free from my mental issues. I am as frustrated as before. I am as bitter as before. I get angry at the drop of a hat. I am jealous. I am as much of a samsari as I was before, in spite of having this jnanam. Even though my jnanam is absolutely, free of all doubts, even though I'm convinced 110% that I am Brahman, I don't find a transformation in my personality. Okay. So what is the problem? So we can compare it to your house. You are not getting water in the tap. Okay. So you say maybe there is no water, and therefore you go up to the tank and you look, and you find the tank is brimming with water. But there is still no water coming in the tap. What can be the problem?
There might be a blockage somewhere.
There would be an obstacle somewhere. And therefore, when you are got samshaya rahita jnanam, your tank of knowledge is full. But if that knowledge is not coming out from your tap, means it is not available to you during your interactions with the world, what does it mean? It means there is some blockage somewhere which is preventing that knowledge from the tank into coming into your life. So if the transformation is not taking place, then there are some obstacles. And therefore, we should do sadhana for removing those obstacles we need to pay attention to the subconscious mind where the obstacles take place. Many people, when they find that after Vedanta, they have not reaping the benefits of it, they conclude that Vedanta is useless. And then they go and do Kundalini Yoga, or they do Hatha Yoga, or they do Tantra Yoga. Go and look for other teachers. Looking for a new path is not a solution, because it is the same mind which is going to follow you everywhere. It is not that if you are in Bombay and you are not happy, you can be in Haridwar and be happy. Happiness is not a product of the external environment, a product of your mind. And therefore, since the same mind is going to follow you everywhere, the solution is I should look at my mind. What are the obstacles which are preventing this knowledge which I already have from manifesting as peace in my mind? So there is, which we call this habitual notions. We have certain ideas about ourselves which have arisen out of habit, and they are very strongly entrenched in the mind. So in the form of anger, I am used to getting angry at certain situations. I am used to being jealous under certain circumstances. I am used to being frustrated when a certain type of situation takes place. These have become habits, and these are called viparita bhavana. Viparita bhavana is all these subconscious thinking patterns, they are not in your conscious mind. Very often, you will explode with anger without really knowing why I got angry. When that happens, many of us think, oh, why did I get angry? But you should understand that trigger is elsewhere. There was some latent problem in the mind. Whatever happened, whatever situation in which I lost my temper and shouted at everybody, the cause for the anger is not the situation. That situation was only the trigger. The cause lies elsewhere in a viparita bhavana, in a subconscious thinking pattern. Because it is subconscious, I am not able to recognize. These are all hardwired, to use modern terminology, all hardwired thinking patterns. When something is hardwired, you need to do rewiring to remove that. You cannot change it. You have to tear out all the old wires, put new wires. And this process for spiritual sadhana is called nididhyasana. Nididhyasana means Vedantic meditation, in other words. And in this nididhyasanam alone, the transformation of the personality has to take place. And nididhyasanam consists of two activities. One is, since I have got the knowledge, I have to ensure that all my transactions with the world are in harmony, in keeping with the Vedantic teaching. With all the teaching which I have got, all the jnanam which I have got, I have to ensure that any transaction I do, whether it be my spouse or my children or my neighbors or my parents, all transactions are within the framework of Vedantic teaching. So Vedanta friendly living, like eco-friendly house you call, Vedanta friendly living, that should be there. Any thought, any transaction which violates the teaching, which goes against the teaching, that transaction or that way of living, I have to change. I have to drop. So this is called being alert. Alert living in the background of Vedanta. That is number one. So one activity is that, a constant evaluation of what I am doing. And this is called mindfulness by others. Being mindful of whatever you do. ensuring that it is all in keeping with my knowledge, which I have got now. That is the first one. The second activity is I use the meditation time for improving. Now, this might sound very strange, okay? For improving my image about myself, for improving my opinion about myself. And this is not, bragging and saying, oh, until I came to Vedanta, everybody told me what? You are useless, you are miserable, you are mortal, you cannot even buy tomatoes from the market. What sort of use are you? Okay. Your family members, your relatives, your friends remind you constantly that you are a most useless, finite being. And therefore, I use this particular meditation time to say what? Na jayate mriyate va kadachita. Who says I am mortal? Who says I am useless? I am the very consciousness blessing this mortal body. Body is mortal, yes, but as consciousness, I am immortal. You meditate on the fact, who needs the world? I don't need the world at all. But the world itself depends upon me because I am Brahman in which the world resides. So every unhealthy self-opinion that I have to pick it up in my meditation. Write it down on an Excel sheet, okay? Following are my negative opinions. Keep the Excel sheet locked with the 10-digit password so nobody ever knows. But take the first one, meditate upon it for a week, for 10 days, for 20 days. Neutralize that negative image with the Vedantic teaching. You are not just telling yourself that, no, I am not miserable. You are telling yourself that Shastra itself, Lord Krishna himself tells me that I am immortal. Where can I be miserable? Krishna tells me that I am Ananda itself. How can I be miserable? Using Krishna's torch, use that torch of Krishna you show on that miserable self-opinion of yours and destroy that self-opinion with the fire of that Krishna's torch. So one opinion is destroyed, you go to the next one. This is the Dhyanam which you should do. This is Atma Dhyanam, Nidhi Dhyasanam. And when you do it day after day, slowly you will find it seeping into your subconscious. So much so that if you have a dream, your dream will become about you as Brahman, not as a Jiva. You will dream of yourself as a wonderful, free, immortal entity. Okay, one caveat here, okay. This role of Dhyanam that we are talking about is from the point of view of a sadhaka, right? As Brahman, do you have this role? As Brahman, you don't have the role at all. All these descriptions, all these discussions are purely from my role as a sadhaka, as a seeker of moksha. Okay, any questions so far? This basic background.
Om Acharya.
Yes, John.
The Vedantic friendly living refers to like in Patanjali Yoga Sutras terms like the yamas niyamas and dharmic lifestyle. Is that what it
Refers to not only that. See, dharmic lifestyle yama niyama doesn't tell you that you are Brahman.
means?
The teaching tells you so many things. But yes, to a large extent, yama niyama is there. But the teaching tells you that you are also immortal. So whenever you feel that you are, one of the greatest fears which we have is what? Of death or of old age. All of us have that fear. So one of the very relevant things is to examine that fear. Patanjali will not tell you anything about this. But Krishna says yes. Na jayate mriyate va kadachita. You were never born. Where is the question of your ever dying? That is the torch in which you see. Definitely, you must conduct yourself with sadgunas, with the correct virtues, definitely. But that is only part. What you have to pull out from its root is that, miserable opinion which I have of myself. As long as you have negative opinions about yourself, how can you accept the fact that Aham Brahmasmi? You may know the knowledge. You may be sure of the knowledge. You may not be able to question the knowledge because it has been driven into you. But it has not gone into your subconscious. And so every time you say Aham Brahmasmi, you will find your mind falling on the floor and laughing. LOL, they call it. Laughing out loud. Right? So, or ROFL, I think is the correct word. Rolling on the floor with laughter. So, your mind has to stop doing that. Yes, Amit ji.
Oh, Acharya ji. Acharya ji, I have a question like on Nididhyasam, we were talking about that we need to identify our negative pattern of subconscious and overcome that. So my question is that let's say we have identified, okay, this pattern is negative, and sometimes we win over it, but there are sometimes chances that it will ignore us. So how do we make sure that every time we are the winner?
Well, you
And I
keep on
think,
getting up and fighting.
yeah, but sometime when it's win over us, then after when we remember that, yeah, it should have not been done, then it brings a sense of guiltiness.
No, that the guilt is one of the most useless emotions in this world. Okay. By feeling guilty, are you doing any good to anybody, either yourself or the other?
No.
So what you should do is, supposing you have done something wrong. Let us say that you have yelled at your wife for no reason. Okay. I'm sure it happens to the best of us. What do? You feel guilty about it? It's pointless. Feeling guilty about it does not help her feel better and makes you feel miserable. So guilt is one of the most useless emotions that you can have in this world. Nididhyasanam is also recognizing that fact that this negative emotion does not help me deal with anything at all. What should I do in this particular case?
And apologize, own up.
Go to her, apologize, tell her you didn't mean it. Not only will your guilt vanish, she will also feel better. And of course,
Got
they
it.
say very jovially that even if you're not wrong, you still apologize. Because that is the way all husbands are trained to be. So do that also.
Got it, Acharya ji. One more thing, how do we increase our willpower to such a level that we are always constant, no, I have to behave that way?
Willpower is like any muscle. How do you increase the muscle? You work on it.
Regular practice.
So if you like, say, 4 coffees in a day, then tomorrow onwards you say that I will not have 4 coffees every day. I'll have 3 coffees a day. You do that for about couple of months till the 4th coffee becomes meaningless for you. Then you say, I'll have 2 coffees a day. You do that for another month. Since that becomes meaningless for you, then you go 1 coffee a day. And then 1 coffee every alternate day. And then soon you will find that you don't need the coffee at all. Shanai, Shanai. Your willpower has to be increased in small doses. Otherwise, you will fail.
Got it, Acharya ji. Thank you so much.
Okay. Any other questions?
Oh, Acharya ji, I have a question.
Yes, Rishmaji.
So last session, there was a thing that when we meditate on ourselves. So is it oneness with God? Is it oneness with Brahman?
What do you mean by oneness with Brahman? If you are saying I am Brahman, then that's correct.
So it's not in a binary format.
Binary format is not really different, okay? Don't think that binary format means 2 things. Binary, the word means 2 things. But why is binary format not 2 things? Binary format, when we say, we are saying what? What are the 2 things we are saying?
Atman, Ishvara and...
No. We are saying Atma, Anatma.
Atma, Anatma, right? Yeah.
Okay. Now, Atma, Anatma, when you say, is it really binary or is it unitary? When you say there is a gold necklace and a chain, are there two things?
No, they are one.
It's
That is how you should understand. That Atma, Anatma is, though you are saying, you are using this term binary format to show that there are two things I am conscious of, that there is Atma and there is Anatma. Remember that Anatma is a dependent entity. It's not really there. Since Anatma is Mithya, there is only Satyam. That is what is meant by binary format.
Okay. So in that meditative form, we are the Anatma. And
You are just saying Aham Brahmasmi. That's it.
okay, fine. Thank you, Acharya.
Yes, Lataji?
Om Acharya ji. So far, I thought Viparita Bhava is think opposite. Is it right or is it wrong?
No,
Because
that is not Viparita Bhavana. Viparita means it
okay,
is negative.
negative. Okay.
Yeah.
That
Okay,
is
thanks.
Pratipaksha Bhavana, right?
Atipaksha Bhavana is taking the opposite thing.
Okay, okay. Because in Hindi, Viparit is like opposite. That's why.
Viparita, yeah. So this
Okay.
technology, the technical term here, Viparita means habitual.
Okay, okay. Thanks.
Okay. Shall we?
Acharya ji, if
Yeah.
moksha is a siddha vastu, why is a mumukshu still called a sadhaka?
Because he has not known that he is, he is Brahman. Your real, as a seeker, you have to kill the seeker before you can become
Yes,
the sought.
yes.
As long as the seeker is there, you will never be the sought.
So Anyani is no longer a seeker.
No, of course not. In fact, the very process of seeking should destroy the seeking. Then only your learning has been successful.
Very profound.
Very profound. This is what SPG told me once long, long ago when I went and told him, Swamiji, how many years will I have to do all this studying? So he laughed and said that until the day you realize that you spent all your time in foolishness. That's what it meant. That when you realize that it was not necessary at all, you have learned nothing new. You have only learned that you are Brahman, all that was there already. Nothing new has happened in your life.
Sir, that quote you once mentioned, if you see Buddha on the road, go ahead and kill him.
Yeah, that's what they say. When you see Buddha, kill him. Because without killing Buddha, you will never become Buddha.
Acharya, so
Yes,
the
Indiraji.
Anumanam versus Arthapatti, is it in Anumanam there is something and then you infer. In Arthapatti you just assume.
There's
What's the main
assumption,
difference?
and there is a other one. There's a pratyaksham behind that.
In Pratyaksham in Anumanam, right?
Pratyaksham is there, Anumanam. All Anumanam is based on pratyaksham.
Where in Arthapatti there's no
There's a
Pratyaksham.
presumption. There's an assumption. A presumption, you can call it.
Assumption. And okay. And in Anupalabdhi there's nothing.
Anupalabdhi, there's
I
nothing.
mean, it was there, but it's not there now. It's like that.
No, you are seeing that there is something which is not there on the table, and therefore you are saying that since your perception is of non-existence, the knowledge is that it doesn't exist there.
Mm-hmm.
Non-availability of the object is leading you to the conclusion what? That leading you to knowledge that there is no object there. No object there is the knowledge. What caused that? The perception that the object is not there. Therefore, anupalabdhi.
Right. Okay, Acharya. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll go ahead short little before we finish. This sixth chapter can be classified into 5 main topics. So one is samanya sadhanani, general discipline, also called bahiranga sadhanani. So if you hear the name samanya sadhanani, Sadhanani, incidentally, is plural of sadhana. So samanya sadhanani means bahiranga sadhanani, external disciplines. And these external disciplines are constant disciplines to be observed throughout your day on daily transactions. So that is bahiranga sadhanani or samanya sadhanani. That's the first topic. The second topic is Vishesha Sadhanani, specific disciplines to be observed as you sit for meditation. During the process of sitting for meditation, what do you observe? That is called Vishesha Sadhanani, also called Antaranga Sadhanani. So Samanya Sadhanani is Bahiranga, Vishesha Sadhanani is Antaranga. General disciplines are external, specific disciplines are internal. So, two types of sadhananis. Then the dhyana swarupam, the nature of meditation. What is meditation? Is it concentration on something or is it remaining thoughtless? So, the very nature of the meditation process, that is called dhyana swarupam. So, the third one. The fourth one is dhyana phalam. What is the meditation benefit of meditation? Can I, after meditating, can I levitate so that I can avoid the pothole on the road? You know, that kind of stuff. Is that one of the benefits? And number 5 is, what are the obstacles for meditation? Dhyana pratibandhaha. And what are the remedies? Dhyana pratibandha pariharam. What are the remedies? So when we study, you will find that Krishna starts with samanya, the general preparation. Why does he start with that? Because all of us have got only one mind, and we have to use that mind everywhere, in our day-to-day transactions also, and in our practice of meditation also. So in your day-to-day transactions, you go through all kinds of experiences: anger, frustration, disappointment, irritation, right? So you can't get a fresh mind. Unlike in your cricket, after 75 overs, you can ask for a fresh ball. But the same mind you are stuck with throughout your life. So you have to use that mind only. And these kind of disturbance can affect the quality of meditation. And therefore, Krishna says you should learn the art of not getting disturbed, which is called samatvam, which is we call FIR. We do not mean a mind totally free from emotions, but we mean a mind which is controllable, where it doesn't have violent emotions. You can have all emotions as long as the emotions can be forgotten when necessary. If you are able to forget disappointments, irritations, and you haven't had too many violent emotions, you're not throwing plates and glasses at everybody, then you are more or less getting there. So you should not be carried away by happy situations. You should enjoy. But whether you are facing a happy situation or a very, very depressing situation, when you pick up your next job for the day, your mind should be available. And Krishna prescribed in the second chapter how to get this kind of a mind. He said, Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhayas siddhayo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. He presented karma yoga as a means of samatvam. And the first 3 verses of this chapter, Krishna talks about karma yoga as the way of getting a balanced mind, so that when you come to nididhyasanam, you can leave all your emotions and problems and office problems and spouse problems, all of them you can leave at the door along with your chappals. When you come inside, your mind is available for the task. If the first verse is about karma, then why do you say chapter talks about dhyanam? So Shankaracharya says in his commentary that karma is introduced as a preparatory stage for meditation, which means karma is used as a general preparation, as a means for dhyana yoga. And Shankara says you have to keep on doing the karma until your mind is ready for nididhyasanam. And Shankara makes a very interesting point over here. He says that the moment you are ready for Nididhyasanam and start practicing it, you have actually entered the sannyasa ashrama. You have become a sannyasi. So from the Vedic point of view, the difference between grahastha and sannyasi is what? That grahastha is associated with Vaidika karma. Sannyasi is free from Vaidika karma. Right? Of course, in today's context, it's an irrelevant argument because even grahasthas are free from Vaidika karma. We don't do Vaidika karma at all. And what about Laukika karma? Worldly activities. Grahasthas also do worldly activities. And in today's world, sannyasis also do worldly activities. So all those old definitions have gone for a toss. So Shankara argues here that Krishna is saying that for the unprepared person, the best discipline is karma. For the prepared person, the best discipline is dhyanam. These are alternative paths and cannot exist today. This is, of course, the original vision of the Veda. And as I said, it is not practical today. Because today we don't have anybody who does Vaidika karma at all. We don't have a sannyasi who does not engage in worldly activities at all. So that vision is not very practical today. This is the background. With this, in the next class, we'll enter into the chapter 1 proper. Okay. So with this, we'll end. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Tat
Thank you for your
Sat.
patience. Om
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Acharya.